Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever it is, wherever it is in your part of the world. This is episode 5, part 1 of the Let's Make Some Noise series. If you've been following us, then you've probably already figured out by now that we are taking a different set of pedals into the studio every week to record a different song. And these episodes here are, of course, dedicated to just plugging in and exploring the pedals beforehand so we can kind of learn them a little bit. So far in this project, we've already played through over 60 pedals, and it's been a wild experience. Very eye-opening, especially for a lot of the crew that hasn't had maybe the same opportunities to play through such a vast variety of sounds and effects. So I hope you're all enjoying the series and having fun with it, and congrats to everyone that has won some gear so far. Some of it's probably already arrived, and some of it's probably already on the way, and I really hope that you're taking those pedals and that gear, and that you are having your own creative, inspiring moments at home as well. That's really a huge part of what this is all about. So thanks for sticking around and watching the show. Today we have an awesome lineup of pedals yet again. Right now you're hearing Michael Williams playing through the Champion Lecce, the Swan Hunter, reverb and delay. John has his synth rig through the Earthquaker Grand Orbiter phaser. And we also have Taylor Matherne on bass tonight. We're going to have a new guest musician, Connor LaCour. Stick around to the end of the episode to, of course, always see what we're giving away. And I'll touch you guys more at the end of the episode. All right. The first pedal today, the Swan Hunter from Champion Lecce. I did a demo on this a little over a year ago. There aren't many pedals like the Swan Hunter. There are delay reverb combos out there, but just something about the haunting mixture of lo-fi sounds that come from this pedal, added with the unique fore and aft controls that can get you gated reverb and gated delay sounds, and ducking sounds as well, make for a really unique delay reverb combo. So there's a lot that you can do with it. You can do workhorse utility reverb delay sounds if you want, but there's also a second delay circuit that has modulation to it, like tape-like Warble. You can blend that in with your other delay and mix it. You can get two delays going on with the reverb. You can run the reverb and the delay in series or parallel using the confluence knob here. The controls are all labeled really uniquely too. It's really cool. So there's always something unique about Champion Lecce's designs. Right now you're hearing Connor play with the reverb and the delay both on. Let's check out some sounds with the aft switch engaged on just the reverb, and so we can hear what some of this ducked out then following reverb sounds like. We're going to switch to 4 mode. So you hear that reverb kind of dying out when Connor stops playing, right? We can actually do this to both the delay and the reverb, and it'll die out. It's a dry blend. Here's that modulated delay. Very ghost-like quality to this reverb delay. foot switch that you just saw me press and engage that kind of blew everything up is this momentary oscillation switch. It actually has some secondary functionalities, but overall, it's just a really unique delay reverb combo that has a lot of haunting qualities to it. So, very lovely. All right, moving on, we have the Grand Orbiter V3 from Earthquaker Devices, a 4-stage OTA phaser. I've played most of the versions of the Grand Orbiter since the first one came out, and I've always jived with this pedal. It's not subtle, and that's something I really like in a phaser. It's like I really want to hear the phaser, doing its thing. The speed range is pretty extreme. It even has different modes for reaching different speeds. Let's slow it down to some syrupy phaser sounds. It's got a lot of cool tricks up its sleeve. The second mode stops the LFO, so we can actually sweep the frequencies here. And a vibrato mode that's really interesting as well. There we go. Very wild sound. There's just something about phasing that's so cool. All right, moving on, the Alexander Pedals Syntax Error 2. If you're familiar with the V1 or any kind of bit crushing effect, it's usually synonymous with video game sounds, but both the Syntax Error 1 and 2 really took the whole frequency modulation, sample rate reduction thing 8 million steps further, and now you can essentially turn your instrument into a computer. A very weird, bizarre, trippy, spacey computer. Really, there's so much that you can do. We're not going to be able to cover everything. There's like 7 modes. There's some really spacious sounding modes. On bass, I've found that I really like cube mode a lot. This is ring mode. You could do a lot of cool soundtracky stuff with this. And then there's definitely some musical ways to take advantage of this pedal. A lot of it just depends on where you have the mix knob. There's 4 top controls that you can see on screen. You have access to several presets, so you can flip sounds on the fly. Let's roll the volume up and scroll through a few. In each of the modes, you can also add an octave up or any other semitone in between that, an octave down to your signal with this pitch control, and has its own volume. Let's switch to cube mode. Now I'm going to get that octave up out of there. Scrolling through the sample rate is a really fun way to kind of dial in your sound. The top 4 controls are different for each mode. I'm sweeping the filter in cube mode right now. And yeah, of course, you can hook an expression pedal up to this, so opening and closing those filters is a really cool way to apply that. I'm just doing it manually here. Now, frequency mode. It's a delay mode. Let's turn the mix up and just see what happens. Check out my demo from last year. I actually collabed with Emily Harpist, and we got a lot of really cool musical sounds out of it. So, cool, yeah. All right, the Solid Gold Effects Ether Modulated Reverb. Small box reverb with a huge variety of effects and some very powerful sounds inside it. It also has an infinite mode on it, so it really has all the features of these modern reverbs that we've come to expect and appreciate, you know. There are 3 modes of modulation on it. There's a vibrato, there's a traditional tremolo, there's a harmonic tremolo, and you have 3 different wave forms that you can circulate through in each of those modes. There's a unique one to each mode, and then there's sine and sawtooth wave that you can get to some pretty extreme settings on if you want to. Let's kick it on and just hear a few things, and we'll circulate through the modes and check out how the shimmer sounds as well. So we've got some vibrato reverb here. Lush and dreamy. Let's change the wave shape to sawtooth. Let's switch to tremolo. And the depth increases in both clockwise and counterclockwise positions with different waveforms on each side. Check out the harmonic tremolo. And add some shimmer in there. The infinite freeze works really well and doesn't get out of hand. Absolutely lovely. Fantastic job with this, SGFX. All right, the Silktone Fuzz just came out towards the end of last year, and we're actually playing most of the guitars in the series through the Silktone amp. So we have quite a combo here. It's a germanium fuzz with a bias meter, which is really, really handy because you can see pretty much exactly where you are, no matter if you're playing on a hot stage, if you're playing inside of a refrigerator, or if you're playing in the bathtub, right? You can always get the same consistent sounds, right? It has a cleanup knob on it, so You can essentially do the same thing as rolling your guitar's volume back, but on the knob here. It's really handy if you like precision dialing in. It gets pretty low gain to pretty high gain. Overall, it just has a really sweet sound to it. There's a classic mode and there's a raw mode, and raw mode has less bass filtering and changes the bias point. Let's kick it on, and we're going to scroll through some of the different bias positions to see what kind of different sounds we can get out of it. A lot of gain on tap. So messing with the bias is one of the most fun things about this fuzz, right? 4.5-ish is about the sweet spot. You'll see the numbers moving on the screen because it's not an exact science. And you can get fatter tones a little higher up. Nastier, stickier sounds all the way up. Ooh. Has almost a gated quality to it. And then, of course, if we roll back, we can get some choked out, starved, buzzy sounds. The raw mode. It's going to give you a volume boost, so we'll control that. You get more bottom end in your sound. And let's dial it back to the sweet spot, and we're going to clean it up a little bit. Love this fuzz. All right, the Particle V2 from Red Panda. I've eyed this pedal from afar for quite some time. I played the Context V2, their reverb, and it blew me away. I did a demo on it 2 years ago, and I was just amazed at the depth and the sound quality of that pedal. Just my first few minutes with this pedal has given me a similar result. I'm pretty overwhelmed, actually. It's a granular delay, and the cool thing about it is that the interface is very easy to use. You don't really need to know a ton about granular delay, input buffers, sampling and resampling, just to get some really cool atmospheric, glitchy, wild, pitch jumping sounds, you know. It's got multiple modes. There are delay and pitch modes indicated by the black and the white lettering. And there's a different parameter that you can control with the param knob that's unique to each of these modes. A lot of the other controls are standard to what would be like a typical delay. So it's pretty easy to jump in. There's also a freeze foot switch, and you can also freeze manually using the chop knob once you get past 50% of the marker, where you can change the sensitivity for that or just hold something infinitely. So let's mess around with a few modes and hear a few things. Kick on a sequence, John, if you can. So we are in the pitch density mode. It's really cool. Let's go to detune. Wow. All right, reverse. You can change the grain size with the chop control up to the 50% mark. And get these short little glitchy blips. More wide out spaced little sections of sound. LFO mode's really cool. So as you can hear, there's so many things that you can do with this pedal. And a lot of it is just dependent on what you feed into it. Really, the possibilities are endless. Just fantastic creative tool. All right, moving on. We have the new Spirit Animal from Farm Pedals. This is a gorgeous looking pedal. A bass distortion, right? It's actually good in multiple applications, as they explain in the manual as well, but was designed specifically for bass. It's really no nonsense. There's two knobs. You have your clean blend and you have a gain knob. We're going to roll the volume knob up and hear what it's like at full gain. It's not an extremely high gain distortion. It's very tasteful. Very nice. Having a clean blend is becoming more and more handy for modern players that want more movement and articulation in their playing. So as Taylor is starting to move around more, we're still getting that fuzziness, but we're hearing the low end stay more intact, and we're really hearing more of that note definition. So I've got about 10 o'clock right now, with some of that clean signal blended in. And here's full on. So no dry signal. Clean it up a little bit. So at the lower gain settings, it's actually very nice and tasteful. It's not overkill. It's got a lot of driving energy to it. Very nice. This has been a really interesting night. We've got a few more pedals to knock out. The Walrus Slotva. Walrus's small box reverb that has a lot of unique character to it. It's 3 modes: Dream, Dark, and Rise. And this pedal is absolutely geared towards ambience and just vibing out. There's lots of infinite freezing and sustain capabilities on it in a few different ways, and it's got really dreamy, warbly modulation. You can also switch between different waveforms in the modulation as well. Let's kick it on and hear it. It's like instantly being thrown into a dream. Speaking of, this is dream mode. You can hear that that really intense modulation. Just very nostalgic feeling. In this mode, the infinite foot switch is latching. And it grabs your last note and just holds it there and hovers really nicely. Switching to dark mode here. Oh, that's lovely too. In dark mode, it's an octave down. The X control does something different in each mode, and in this one, it's the amount of that octave down. You can still use the infinite freeze, which is more of a swelling effect in dark and rise modes. My favorite thing to do with this pedal is keep the mix cranked pretty high. I also really like controlling the filter knob over these pads. And what can I say? It's a dream in a box. Yeah, all right. The Madoverse Warble Swell Echo. It's a really cool little delay. It's got an intense modulation section with a huge variety of wave shapes to select from. But really this pedal's calling card is the ability to create these either fast rushing sweeps or slowly building just momentum rising sweeps. So let's take a look at it. You've got your basic delay controls and your modulation depth. And of course you can pick your different waveforms and get the sound that you want. You can use it as a fantastic delay pedal for any application. But this nice little springy foot switch, when you engage it, like we said, starts to take you on another journey. Now, the swell knob down here is going to affect how quickly or how slowly that's going to rise, right? Let's try some different waveforms out. And start dialing some of that modulation in so we can hear it. Let's try something jarring like a square wave. Very interesting. All right, let's slowly swell it up. Let's set it for a faster time. And what I really like about this pedal is that the swell disappears almost immediately after you let go. So with the faster times, we can just call it in. Really use it in a more rhythmic sense that way. Very cool. It's very cool. All right, the Redbeard Effects Honey Badger. Redbeard is a newer company that came around 2 years ago. Collaboration between Adrian Thorpe at Thorpe Effects and Mikey Demas from the band Skindred. They've already put out a really cool line of dirt pedals. I dug into the Angry Rhubarb in a demo about a little over a year ago that you should check out. It was a fantastic overdrive that I really got to bond with. It's going to be involved in the series later. The Honey Badger is an octave down fuzz, and it's a nasty fuzz at that. It's extremely high gain, and there's a separate control for the octave. Doesn't indicate in the manual whether it's digital or analog, but to my ears, it sounds like an analog octave because of the way that it tracks and behaves. The divide switch is a really cool feature for switching between 1 octave down or 2 octave down. Sometimes it's hard to hear the difference if you're doing fast riffing, but single note, higher string playing is going to result in smoother octave sounds. You can also intentionally get this pedal very glitchy by switching the divide knob to the noon position in between octave and 2 octaves down. And it's actually kind of a really cool, glitchy, desirable sound. So let's just hear the fuzz and dive into that first. It's like half gain right now. Let's go full. I really like it about 70%. All right, let's kick on that octave. You know, as with most analog octave downs, it's going to track better, higher notes, and especially if you roll your tone knob down. Two octaves down is very gnarly and synthy sounding. Let's really glitch it out. Gnarly sounding. It's that middle mode I was telling you all about. All right. The GFI system Orca delay. Their small form factor digital delay that they released not too long ago that really took a lot of people by surprise because there are just so many sounds and features inside and presets to boot, plus the ability to switch between 2 presets on the fly, making it really useful for on-the-go live sets. I also really like that this pedal has 2 very ambient reverb-involved modes as well. Right now you're hearing a tape-inspired delay sound. There's wow and flutter controls and stuff like that. There's also just a regular digital mode for clean, repeat type stuff. So let's dive into a few of the sounds and hear a little bit. On some extreme wow and flutter settings here. Now we're in digital delay mode. Which we can also modulate. Let's keep it clean for now. Into some of the more ambient sounds. Three of the knobs on the front face of the pedal control what they're initially labeled for, but GFI Systems pedals all have these really cool push and twist knobs which allow you to access the secondary parameters without having to do anything fancy or hold a bypass foot switch or something like that. ambiental is a very pretty shimmer reverb delay. All right, a lot of lovely sounds hidden inside this box. Very nice. Right, the Expanse from Mass Effects. This is a harmonic tremolo that is paired with a really interesting, beautiful, lush, massive reverb. It's got a secondary foot switch called Vast Expanse that then takes it into further sort of oscillation territory, and it gets really big. You could use it as just a standard harmonic tremolo, and if you're not familiar with what that is, it's instead of a traditional tremolo where you're undulating the volume, this is moving back and forth between low pass and high pass filters. So a lot of times you just get some sort of harmonic movement in your sound. You can kind of hear it right now. Now, this has an outer space switch to introduce reverb. So we can hear that right now. And then if you click the switch up again, we start getting into some really dreamy soundscapes. Let's try that Vast Expanse foot switch. When we let go, it sort of slowly fades away. The warp switch can go through a couple different modes, and in the higher mode, it starts shifting frequencies. Really cool sounding, especially when we add feedback into the circuit. And I just found, when I was exploring with this pedal just a little while ago, and turning the width control axis is this crazy sci-fi sound. There's a lot of complexity to what's happening here, actually. This is not your dad's harmonic tremolo. And as you can hear, we are now drifting out in space. Yeah, we love this pedal. All right, got a few more. The Fjord Fuzz Odin. We've really enjoyed all the pedals that Fjord Fuzz has sent in. The Odin so far might be my favorite. It's a killer sounding fuzz on its own, and they're kind of a mysterious company. I'm not even sure exactly what's going on under the hood, but there's two gain stages here. You've got a really sick high gain fuzz on one. You introduce the second, and you've got one of the most ripping octave up fuzzes that I've ever heard. You've got a gain control for both fuzzes, and you have a master volume. Very simple interface. As always with their pedals, the bronze plate will light up in the designs when you turn it on. It's very cool looking. So let's hear what the initial fuzz sounds like. Cleans up very nicely with the gain knob dialed back. But let's get to the heart of this thing. I really want to hear what the octave sounds like. nasty. Michael's playing through the 36 Circuits Student Driver right now, which is from what I've been told, a Tube Screamer-inspired drive that has a voltage star switch right on the front of it. So your gas tank can go from full to empty, the flick of a switch. So we're going to dig in and play a little bit through that. And then we're going to pump in the front of it the land device is Domino, which is an analog octave up. Super handy for just placing your chain before your favorite fuzz, your favorite distortion, your favorite overdrive in this instance, and having that analog octave up effect anytime that you want. In some instances, depending on what you combine it with, you can get into ring mod territory. Sounds really good. So let's check it out. Got a simple 3-knob interface with tone, gain, and volume, labeled as miles per hour for gain, and temperature for tone, and your radio for volume. It's really cool designs. Love the artwork on this pedal. Let's starve it though. It's dead. They went really extreme on this pedal. This is like going from 9 volts to 1. There's actually a lot of creative things that you can do with extremely starved sounds like this, though. You'd be surprised. All right, let's kick it back on. All right, and then we're going to throw in the octave up here with the Domino. Very cool.